Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Into Deep podcast.
This is Into Deep with Jeff Goddard, elevating your mental and physical well-being as we explore the minds, strategies and stories behind the humans making an impact.
First was exposed to him on social media, so he does some amazingly funny, humorous, catchy videos, and a lot of it is to do with, excessive use of alcohol, recreational drugs, and it really resonated with me, someone who was a bit of an ex-party guy myself. So I was like, I really could have used these services
back. A lot of people say that.
Yeah, back in my heyday, mate, back in the late teens, early 20s, mate, I was like, I could have definitely used something like this. So I kept watching your stuff and I hit you up and, the stars aligned for us to be able to have you on the couch today.
Yeah,
it's
good
deep, mate.
to be here.
Yeah, mate. So start by telling the people, if they might not have heard about you, who is Nick?
Who is Nick? It's an interesting question, this one, when you think about it deeply. And obviously, I've watched a few of your shows, so knew this was coming. And I just think of Derek Zoolander, when he's looking into the puddle and he's like, who am I? Because I genuinely think everybody at some time has dealt with that question and struggled with it about who their identity is. And I guess for me, it depends who you ask and when you ask it, because the answer I would have given you 12 months ago is different to the answer that I would fall at today. But funnily enough, I actually went pretty deep with this not so long ago with a good friend of mine. She was like psychoanalyzing me and we were just having these long conversations. So how I see myself at the moment is probably a mix between sort of stereotypical mainstream media type, one of the boys loves a beer, and a psychedelic loving hippie. So what I mean by that is, I grew up in a footy culture, I ran the footy trips for the footy club, loved having beers, getting on the bags, eating pingers with the boys, still pretty materialistic in some ways. Like I wear night clothing, I love Las Vegas, for instance, I love everything about Las Vegas, chasing, your stereotypical type success. But then I've got a tattoo on my leg of a lady meditating on magic mushrooms, because I attribute magic mushrooms to shaping my life and how empathetic and caring they sort of made me and how open to different things I am because of those experiences. So I meditate, do breath work, all those spiritual type modalities. So I'm a bit of a interesting mix. That's how I view myself at this point in time. And it's funny because when you get to speak to different people and on a deeper level, everyone's an interesting mix, aren't they? Like humans, we like to categorize people, put them into different boxes or whatever, but people are interesting mixes and blends of all different types of things. And I think for me, it's just the fact that I love that blend about myself. Like one thing that I've always loved about myself is a bit of a deep thinker, a bit of a weirdo as well, but I love how I think. And I haven't always loved myself. There's been times when I've had failures in the past where I was really sort of down on myself and whatever, and a little bit of self-hatred, but I've always loved that way that I've thought. So I guess that's how I see myself. And a dad, I'm in that journey now, obviously. Yeah. Like you said, we're up in Sydney, got to fly up with my little fella and make a weekend out of it. So that's been good. That's been awesome. And I love that journey in my life now. I don't see parenting as I don't do everything for my kids, but I love being their friend and just sort of being their guide. That's definitely part of my identity at the moment as well. But I guess that's how I would see myself as in regards to what I do is probably what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll delve a little bit deeper on that, mate. But we do love weirdos on this podcast.
Yeah,
and,
I'm definitely in that category. So
everyone's got a unique story, and that's one thing I love about the podcast. I've never done a shit episode. Everyone, when you peel back the layers, everyone has something interesting to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I used to do a pod way back in the day, and even then, I've just noticed a pattern of being able to go deep with people, and everyone's got a story. And I think everyone's weird in their own way if they can let it out.
That's the advantage that you have doing this, don't you? Is that you get to meet and talk to so many interesting people on a deeper level because that's what you do in these sort of formats.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Yeah, you get to find out things that you would never sort of would in those surface level conversations, I guess. Yeah.
So tell us about Mind Health Bender.
Yeah.
So I'm sure people's ears prick up when they hear the word Bender. They're like, what's Bender got to do with
strategical.
what we're doing here? So tell us a bit more about Mind Health Bender and what you do and how it came about.
Yeah, righto. So Mind Health Bender is an early intervention platform that helps people cut back from recreational drugs and alcohol without the pressure of having to go sober or total abstinence. And it's also a platform, an early intervention platform for mental health and just well-being. So originally the idea came about because I'm an electrician by trade, and was looking to make a change and do something different. And I was going to get into sort of marketing and behavioral economics. And I was just thinking, what is the common thing? Like, so a few things happened, but basically I just thought everything that you do in life comes down to how you're feeling. Like, it doesn't matter what you do in life, it's like how you're feeling. And then I sort of got pushed into the mental health space, and I did a diploma in positive psychology, did a certificate in neuroscience of brain health. And I was just thinking, like, I've coached footy, I've grown up in that environment. I'm in this like spiritual environment over here where everybody in that environment is looking for modalities to better themselves or to look after their mental health and their health and well-being, right? But they're already sold on the idea, whereas I'm in an environment over here where everyone's still getting on the bags, drinking beers, and like they need the information the most, but they don't resonate with the people delivering it. And I thought, how do I take the information from this world and also from the formal study that I was doing with my teachers and stuff, and just basically be the conduit to deliver it to the people that probably need it the most, you know, young fellas growing up in a trade culture, growing up in a footy culture. And then, that was basically the idea. It was like, all right, I need to market it to this group. And that's where Mind Health Bender came. I was like, it's normal, mental health for normal C word. Like, that was my first idea. I'm like, how do I just tie this all together? And I was like, everyone resonates with having a bender. Like, even if people don't do drugs themselves, like they still resonate with that thing. So that's how Mind Health Bender came apart.
Okay. I love that. And so tell me, how are you guys different to, I guess, normal coaching or services like that along those lines?
Yeah. So my platform, it's more about, the big main point of difference is that I don't have one modality. So like if you're going to a psychologist or if you're going to a hypnotist or whatever it may be, they're going to push their thing because that's what they do. So mine is more an early intervention where you come in and I'm the introduction into healing, I guess you would say. So I've got a format that I laid out with the help of psychologists, drug and alcohol practitioner, and it's on the more affordable end because I'm that introduction into healing. So they come in, they go through, and it's a course and it's an accountability program where people just learn small little habits that they can implement into their life, and they're not making a major shift. And then the main thing about it is self-awareness. So they become self-aware where they're at, where they change their perception about how they want to live their life, and then they can do what they need to do. Okay. So for some people, that might just be getting a gym membership. So I literally say that is like, come and join the Mind Health Bender. It's gonna cost you less than a bag if you do it for a year, right? So I can save you by just get one less bag during the year, and that will pay for the subscription. But then when you get in it and you start making changes to your habits, you might realize, I need to start going to the gym. So go and put your money into that. Like, go put your money into a gym membership. Or you might do the self-awareness and you might do the task that I set out, and you've got all this data and you go, I actually really need some one-on-one talk therapy. I need to go to a psychologist. So go and put your money in a psychologist. Okay. Yeah.
So it's very bespoke. So people come in at all different levels and all different walks, and it'll be catered to what they need specifically. Is that what you mean?
It's set out. It's one strategy set out. So you come in, you change your emotional state. So there's the 1 weekend where you basically go through a set of tasks where it's like, right, you need 1 weekend off the piss, 1 weekend off the drugs, and you just spend that weekend going through the course content. And then you've got it laid out. So it's like very basic stuff, really. It's like you got to do gratitude journaling once a week, send 15 minutes of gratitude journaling once a week. And there's like some journaling and things that they do. They go through the course. So it's the one set course that people do, but then obviously what they get out of it is going to be totally different. And then there's the accountability. So they message me personally and I keep on top of them to make sure they're doing their stuff.
That's key, mate. You mentioned the word healing before. So what does healing mean to you?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for me, and this is probably what I've learned going through this last 5 years of this journey, healing is not a one size fits all. Healing is a very personal thing for every single different person.
Yeah, nor is it linear.
Yeah, nor is it linear. So some people it might be years of talk therapy. Sometimes for some people it might be one night on the mushrooms and or an ayahuasca trip. And for others it literally just might be implementing some small little habits that change their life over time, and that includes exercise. So healing for me, I see it more as a personal structure or a personal implementation, what suits you. And that's, when I speak to people, one of my key takeaways to people is like, do what suits you, because there is no one size fits all. And there's nobody to say that, all right, this person's advice is better than this person's advice. The biggest thing for anybody to heal is they need to take action. Like to get anything done in any modality, you need to take action. So you're only going to take action if you resonate with what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, was there a single moment that skyrocketed you onto this new path, or was it sort of a culmination of things? You know what I mean? You said you were going to study behavioral science and marketing, and then you were like, fuck this, I'm going to actually change the trajectory. Was there one moment, or was it
No, it's many different moments. There was, little moments that happened. For instance, Sade Zahari, I don't know if you've heard of her. She's got an amazing platform. Anyway, I went to see Tom Bellew talk, and she was talking in front of him on stage, and I just loved what she did, and I messaged her after it, and I messaged her after it, and she wrote back and she said, you should go and do this positive psychology diploma, which led me to meeting Sue Langley and doing the diploma. So there was little things like that, but there was no massive aha moment that led me to this course. But there was a string of moments that have happened over my life that I would definitely attribute to what had sort of come with that. I can go into that.
Yeah, tell us about a tough time you've been through and how you overcame that.
Yeah, so times when I think back at it, like I said, there's always these, you have epiphanies once a year or twice a year, like for me a lot of the times I feel, but ones that stick out for me in particular over the time is there's been a couple in a real positive light, and then there's been a couple in a negative. You shouldn't use positive and negative when you're talking about feelings, but it's easy to understand. So
simplicity, yep.
Yeah. So there's a story that I tell when I go and do my talks. I talk in footy clubs and businesses when I won't tell the whole story, but basically took magic mushrooms and went down a slide at Bali at Waterbomb Park and had this amazing experience, and like the feeling of that just was, I still remember it to this day. It set me off on this trajectory of, I'd taken mushrooms before I'd been there, but I'd never experienced anything like that. And it set me off on this journey of like experimenting with psychedelics for the next, till now basically, which it basically includes going to zoos, going to magic shows, like going to music festivals, but also doing things like meditating on the beach and Reiki healing and things like that. And I attribute that a lot to doing this. And it was actually one night it was during COVID, the thick of COVID, and I was studying my diploma in positive psychology and having these ideas around the mind health bender and how I did it. And I just said to my wife, I'm going to have some mushrooms tonight and meditate. We put the little fella in the big bed. I just went and slept in his bed and, had a few mushrooms, did a meditation. And it was in that moment when I was like, you can save people's lives. Stop being a pussy and go and build this program, like build the platform that you're thinking about. Because there was a lot of self-doubt. Obviously, I'm not a psychologist. So I'm like, I don't even know if it's legal to do what the idea is that I'm thinking. And it was in that moment when I was like, who cares? Like, just go and do it because you know the culture. Like, if there's anything I know more than anything, it's growing up in that culture of binge drinking, recreational drugs. Go and do it. And that was a key moment. But then also, it's funny you say that because building the platform is when I've had my darkest times. So I started building the platform and I was on top of the world. I'd been really good. I'd been implementing balance into my life and things didn't happen as quickly as I was expecting them to for I don't know why I was expecting them to go that quickly anyway. It was just false, like
attaching to an outcome, right?
And, false outcomes that I'd made up in my head. Yeah. And when you start a platform like this, you're doing your apprenticeship in public, so everyone can see what you're doing as soon as you go online. So I was putting pressure on myself that I probably shouldn't have. And it wasn't until my wife came home one day and she was like, I was worried you were going to do something silly, that I realized how negative I was being and how down I was for a good period of time. So that was a real learner in itself, that I was still implementing these strategies, and sometimes the strategies don't work.
Yeah.
Like they might keep you better, like them sinking as low as you can go, but
it's a lot of trial and error, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're feeling a low, what do you do these days to pull yourself out of that low?
So it's always back to consistency for me, and that's what I teach through my program and through the accountability, is that go back to all the strategies that you know. So for me, it's meditation, like short little meditations consistently. It's obviously balance with drugs and alcohol. So that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go completely. So, well, for me, it doesn't, but it's like, all right, only do it once, only drink once a month or whatever, or only have a big night once every 3 months or whatever. But
so
then
you recommend creating, because that was another thing that really resonated with me, because a lot of people like cold turkey, and I can go months without drinking or doing anything or partying, but I don't think I ever want to cut that out of my life entirely, right? And do you think it's best for people to set limits on, I'm only going to drink at these special occasions? How do you think people can implement some of these practices in their daily lives?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I say is create a plan, but not an unrealistic plan, because what happens, like typical situation, right? Someone says, right, I'm off the piss, or I'm not touching drugs for 3 months, 6 months. And they go month and a half and they have a slip up and they put that down as a failure. They're like, oh, I said I was going to have 6 months or 3 months off, and they see that whole 3 months as a failure. That 6-week period is probably the best 6-week period they've had in the last however many years. So I talk to them about creating a plan, but a realistic plan. So whatever it is, the numbers are always different. So you can't throw numbers out there because they're different for everybody else. But if people come to me and they've been getting on the beers and getting on the bags every single weekend. So I'm like, all right, create a plan where you have 2 weekends completely free of everything. And then maybe if you're getting a bag once a month and you're going from 4 weeks, you've cut 75% of your usage out. And then you're allowing yourself, you're making it realistic. And usually what you find is they have a few weeks and they go, all right, now I can go a few more weeks. So it's setting small realistic tasks and ticking them off as you go. And then if you have a slip up, it's not a failure, it's a learning. Like my teacher always says, emotions are data, like they're there to teach you something. So don't see it as a failure, like rebrand that talk and go, all right, well, what were the habits, and learn from that? What were the habits that got me sucked into that big night?
Okay. I love that. And we've spoken about psychedelics a little bit already. It's funny because our last guest was talking a lot about psychedelics, and now 2 weeks in a row. I haven't
seen that, yeah.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good one. He's it hasn't been just got released this morning actually with Mr. Andrew Marsh. But what do you see psychedelics' role in mental health and healing?
Yeah, it's a touchy one, isn't it?
From your own personal experience, right? We're not recommending that.
No, obviously. But. I am always conscious, because once you start getting into that public forum, your words can get twisted pretty quickly. But I think they can play a massive role in regards to there's two sides to it. The way that I see it is, now that it's coming into the legal side and it's going to have red tape around it and it's going to be psychologists, and I think there's a massive market or a massive impact that can play where they can use them for healing. But with everything, we all know that people go and do it themselves. So that's just going to happen, and people are already out there using it themselves. And I think it's just, again, back to the personal individual, is that if you're going to do it, I think people can have life-changing experiences on them and it can change their entire life. But I also think they can be just as bad the other way. Like, I wouldn't say to people, if you're struggling, you should go out and take psychedelics. In fact, I would say if you're struggling, you should stay clear from them. If you're going to do it, go and do it the proper way, through the right channels, the legal channels, with the psychologists and stuff like that. because they can be just as detrimental as they can positive. But I also understand that people have really good experiences with them, as I did. I just, for some reason, they just agree with me. So I think they can definitely be used as a really good tool for mental health. But I'm just curious of people just being desperate, finding a way, and then jumping in to do them. And then it has the opposite effect because it can bring out some negativity in you if you're holding that as well.
Yeah. I guess it's just like a tool in the toolbox, right?
Yeah.
Right circumstances, right person, right place, right time.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. What do you think is the current state of mental health in America? Not in America, in Australia. And do you work mainly with men, or do you kind of attract both sexes?
I attract both. It's funny because I never mention men or women or any sex or anything like that. I just talk the way I talk. I obviously attract a lot of guys because I come from that footy culture, but it's been about 30% of the people who've gone through my program have been women.
Okay.
So how I see the state of mental health in Australia, to be honest with you, when I first started studying and looking at building this platform, I got stuck into the figures and whatever. I've gone away from that the last few years because it's a problem. It's a big problem. We all know it's a big problem. So I don't need stats and figures to back me up what I'm doing. I just see through my own platform. We'll put it this way. I pretty much get a message every single day from my platform, somebody asking me for help or somebody saying that they saw my content, they've been watching it for a while and it's helped them. So for me, that's big enough. I think it is a massive problem. But I also think at the same time, you hear a lot of people saying we need to do more or talk more. I think we're in a really good trajectory of a lot of people out there talking about mental health, working in the sector, getting into the sector and helping people. I think there is a lot of support, a lot of charities, a lot of people are open to the conversation. Like everywhere I go, when I do talks and stuff, when people hear about what I do, everybody's open to it. Everybody loves it. I think we're actually in a really good place in regards to
so we're in the right direction, I think. I think people are having more conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
More open and honest combos. You mentioned the total abstinence message a bit on your website, and that doesn't really work for people. Why do you think that doesn't work for people?
Because it's human behaviour.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. This is a big sticking point for me, and I've copped it a lot from a few different people, high profile people, saying that I've copped it the whole way through from people saying that what I'm doing is wrong because I push a message of balance and not total abstinence. I live in the real world. At the end of the day, for some people, total abstinence is exactly what they need. And there is so much support. The thing is, when it comes to the mental health conversation, always not gets hijacked, but it always ends up in the road of depression, suicide, and addiction. And it's always in the extremes. And so it should be, because the people that are the most desperate need the most help. So the most of our resources should be in the extremes, you know what I mean? And that's where I sort of saw a gap in the market of like, all right, what about somebody who's not quite depressed, suicide isn't like, we're not worried about that at this point in time. Addiction, they're not addicted, they're still running companies, but they've got these real bad habits that are like destructive, and it's causing problems with their family life, it's causing problems with their mental health, and they're in a position where they could potentially fall, because at the end of the day, if you're going to take drugs or alcohol, there's no line that says, you're risking it, you're playing Russian roulette every time you do it. There's no line that says, if you only have this much, you're not going to fall into addiction or depression. Like, you can get stuck in some real bad habits. But at the end of the day, if you know deep down that you're not going to stop, and that was for me, basically. I knew 100% that I was not ever going to drink again or not take drugs again. You're not going to listen to a message of abstinence. Like, there's people out there that are really heavy in the message of abstinence, and you can learn a lot from those people. But I'll give you an example. So I put up a post, and all I did was just held up one of my bags. This is my marketing. So I've got I've had the genius idea to put my logo on bags.
A couple of saddies, yeah.
And I go around to festivals and hand them out and stuff like that. But basically just held up the bag and said, you know, at the end of the day, if you are going to go get on the packet, you can still set a home time. It doesn't have to spiral into a 3-day bender. And I'm not going to mention names, but I had a hypnotist from the UK who has a massive following and it like deals with drugs and alcohol on the total abstinence side, ripped me, said that I was going to be the reason why people relapsed, committed suicide because they saw my posts. I'm like, for a start, if you're in that bad of a position, you shouldn't be on social media if you're going to see one little plastic bag and that's going to set you off and trigger you. But yeah, at the end of the day, people are still going to do it. And, you know, like he has this message of like total abstinence and telling people to stop doing it. Do you think somebody at Beyond the Valley, 18-year-old girl who's out there trying drugs for the first time is going to listen to that 50, 60-year-old guy barking, telling them to stop? Like, people have been taking drugs and drinking alcohol for how long? And nobody's going to stop that. So it's like, what is realistic? If people aren't going to stop and people know that they're not going to stop, they're far more likely going to listen to a message of somebody telling them, look, just pump the brakes a little bit. Like, you can still do it. If you're going to have a big night, go and do it. But maybe not every Friday that you go to the pub do you need to get a bag as well.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks, I guess. And people are at different stages of the journey. Like you said, a young 18-year-old just entering the experimentation phase might be different to someone who's in their 50s who's been doing it for 30 years and is like, I need to fucking stop this cold turkey.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are your thoughts behind addiction and abuse? Why do people become addicts and abuse drugs and alcohol?
Yeah, it's such a deep question, isn't it? And there's so many different reasons. Obviously, you know, if you listen to the experts on it, there's the different reasons in regards to probably what's going on in their personal life. A lot of trauma comes into it. Yeah. And then obviously the different substance plays different roles. It depends how heavy the drug is. You know, I'm sure obviously if you're taking heroin, it's going to be different than if you're taking something like weed or whatever. I think a lot of it does come back down to personal circumstances and trauma that people have in their lives and things like that.
Okay. Is that something you try? And a lot of it I feel is like maybe a lack of purpose. Is that something you work on in your program, is sort of getting people to think about, you know, what they're trying to do with their lives, that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. Purpose is definitely included and weaved through it. And part of the program as people go through it is that it's not just about cutting back from drugs and alcohol. It's like, all right, how do you reset yourself to live a life that's conducive to you, conducive to your goals, what purpose is? And it's all about how do you restructure and change your perspective around what your purpose is and change your habits so you can get more energy and fulfillment out of the areas in your life with purpose. Yeah.
I love that. And so tell me where you're going. Where's the trajectory of Mind Health Bender going? What's your goal? What's your end goal? Are we going international?
We hopefully we're going big. So my main focus is on becoming a speaker. So I want to take this to the point where, basically I speak around the world, and that's the emotional side of things, because when you can get in front of groups of people and you can speak and you're there with it, like I go into footy clubs and I go into businesses like trades businesses, basically I always get somebody reach out to me afterwards, and you can hear a pin drop every time I talk because it just hits a nerve and you tell stories and people just get emotional. So that's that side of it. And then the online program is set up to go as big as I can, basically. Just keep growing, because the bigger I get, the more impact that I'll have.
Okay. And what's your favorite thing about your job?
Favorite thing is just dealing with people. Yeah. Like, people will surprise you, and people are legends at the end of the day. Like, you know, we all, people are idiots, but people are legends. So getting to deal with so many different people and having that common interest with people, that's definitely one of the things that I love about it.
Okay. We're going to take a little change of pace and focus on Nick Blair, the person. I'm going to ask you a few personal questions.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, do you have any daily rituals that help you with your mental and physical health?
Yep. So as I was saying before, in regards to, like you said, how do you drag yourself out of it if you're in a bit of a lull or whatever? So I've got a diary that I just write in, and it does. And the thing is, the message that I give as well in my programs, nothing has to happen every single day. That's how I approach it as well in regards to balance. So I just write down a few key goals, and like it starts off, it says, be the person who you are when you love yourself. And then I've got 4 or 5 little things that I write down that are conducive to my goals at the time. And one of them is just like, be the best parent to Mav and Stella. Like, don't miss these times. So they're just little daily reminders of keeping yourself level, basically. And then obviously throwing in exercise and eating well and just diarising that. But also, again, if you have a slip up, or just making sure that 4 days you've been pretty on top of it with your meditation. You know, I might do like a big meditation or a big breath work once a week, but then I'll try to get in like 15 minutes a night or whatever, and things like that. So it's basically, like you said, a toolkit, like a rounded toolkit that you try to tick off most of them 4 or 5 days a week, basically.
Yeah, it's funny because like mental hygiene just as important as physical hygiene, and it's not sexy. And we spoke about this one of the earlier guests. Like, this stuff's not easy. It's not easy to sit down for 20 minutes of your day and try to meditate, or 10 minutes of your day to journal. So it's just like going to the gym. People know they should go to the gym, but everyone wants supplements. They want to take a magic pill. They want to watch one YouTube video or get hypnotized and have everything be all good. But it doesn't really work like that, does it?
No, exactly.
Okay. Tell me, what's your biggest source of inspiration in life?
Biggest source of inspiration? That's a good one. I don't even actually know the answer to that question, to be honest, because it chops and changes a lot. Like, little things inspire me, and it could be like, you might be watching a movie and you see a line in the movie and you're like, oh, that's amazing. Or, you know, we all see posts that emotionally move us. Obviously, my kids are a massive one. Again, I don't want to use that stereotypical line of that I do everything for them, but there's certain areas in my life that drive me because I want to provide a certain life for them, but also I want to be a certain role model for them. So they're things that I want to do and accomplish to show them that, you know, that I've got. And to be honest with you, that's just a self-doubt thing. Yeah. That's just like, I want to be able to be in a certain position so I can say to them, look, you can go out and achieve your dreams because this is what I built. Yeah. Whereas I don't really need that. A lot of the things that we do, I've learned, especially over the last 5 years, is just to like appease our own self-doubt, basically, or imposter syndrome that we feel.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the values you'd want to instill in your children?
Values? So obviously just being good people, basically. So we speak to them a lot about, there's a few key things that I think are important in life, and I talk to them about just being good communicators, but just being good people to other people. So if they're good communicators and they're very caring of other people, and they both will, well, Kim and I think they both are, but you sort of notice it, and it's funny because people sort of make these comments. We're like, does everybody with kids get these comments, or are they, you know, not special, but like, are they good in that area? Like, but they'll talk to strangers and they're very caring. Like, for instance, we'll race or we'll play games around the house and I'll pretend to fall over so they can win. But then they'll double back to come and pick me up. Oh, yeah, and instead of like winning, and they're not very competitive. That shows in Mavs basketball.
Mate, a little bit of empathy, mate. That sounds...
Yeah, so yeah, that empathy and just being good people is really... Yeah, and like I said, psychedelics played a big role in my life, and it's that empathy part that really sort of shone through.
Okay. You mentioned tattoos before, which sparked something. I wanted to have a little segment on here where I ask people about their tattoos, because tattoos are very symbolic. They can mean absolutely nothing, or they can be extremely meaningful. Yeah. You mentioned a woman with mushrooms on her or something like that. Yeah. Any other tattoos that you want to let the people know about what you got?
All right. Well, this goes back to the first question that you asked in regards to like, who am I? And I said, I'm a bit of a mix or a bit of a blend. So on my foot, I've got a footy trip 07 tattoo. And that came about from coming up to Sydney, actually, where I didn't sleep for 3 days and was just drug-fueled bender and got footy trip 07 tattooed. And then on the same leg, I've got on my calf here, it's a lady meditating and she's got mushrooms to her, and it's got 3 love hearts, which is Kim and both the kids. And then, it's like a bit of an abstract one, and that is more of the spiritual side of me, and that I got that just to remind myself of like to stay grounded every time. Like if I get into a mode of self-doubt where, you know, things aren't going as well as what I planned, or financially like I'm struggling or whatever it is, that keeps me grounded. But then also when things are going well, like things start to pop, you know, you get videos that hit 2 mil and like you're getting thousands and thousands of shares and things are starting to happen.
Yeah, tell us about your most viral video, because I saw you got a few that reached the mills, right? In terms of watching.
Yeah,
so
I've had a
tell us
couple.
about your most viral or your most memorable, maybe, and why do you think it went viral?
Well, I couldn't tell you why they go viral, to be
It's
honest.
funny. People always say that the ones you think that are going to go viral never do, and then that some random ones just pop off, and you can't really pinpoint it, right?
Yeah, so shamelessly, I'll put my hand up. I have made a few videos deliberately just like trying to I used the kids. So I did a video where I used both the kids and they were holding mushrooms and alcohol. And I was like, this will surely hook people in and go viral if the kids are like talking about. And the whole premise on that video was, they were saying, oh, let's go and play on the playground. And Mav was like, nah. And then they were like, oh yeah, but we got drugs and alcohol. And the point of that video was like, kids don't need drugs and alcohol to go and just play and have fun. So why do you need it as adults? And I thought that was going to pop. And it got like 5,000 followers. A week later, or 5,000 views, sorry. A week later, I didn't have any videos ready to go. And I come out of the gym. I was like, shit, I've got to film one. And I just like did a Friday. I do these Friday reminders where it's just don't get sucked into the sesh. And like I said before, I held up the bag and just said, if you're going out for a big night, and that hit 2.1 mil.
Okay, next one, mate. If you could have, and I'm assuming it would be a beer, you sound like a beers guy. If you could have a beer with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, anyone dead or alive. So many different people. I mean, straight away, like my mind goes to people like Tim Ferriss or Tom Bilyeu, like people that have built pretty big platforms in that area. Yeah. You know what I would love to do though? I'd love to take mushrooms with like a president of the States and like
Mr. Donald Trump or any president?
Whether it's Donald Trump or let's be honest, he'd be funny to do it with. But I don't know, even Putin or someone, I would just love to speak to world leaders and like, what the fuck? Like, I know they're all psychopaths, but like, I think Joe Rogan said it before, like you should just give all the world leaders mushrooms and like chill the fuck out and it would change the trajectory of the world. I think we all struggle at some point in time with the wars and stuff that go on and like the pointless destruction and like terror and stuff. It's like, have a few, imagine you could sit down and have a few mushrooms with Donald Trump and find out what really happens behind the scenes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd probably choose that, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. So any particular world leader or just any of them?
Just one of the big ones, like Trump or Putin or something.
Okay. Next up, you said something that really resonated with me also. A lot of stuff resonated with me on your website, actually. But you mentioned this idea that you offer people a hypothetical. If you could give them a pill and erase all experiences with drug or alcohol, would you take it?
Yeah.
Where did you come up with that, and what is people's response generally to that statement or question? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I just came up with it because I was trying to think of how I could explain my feelings around, like you asked about abstinence before, is that I 100% truly believe that people are always going to take recreational drugs and alcohol because they enjoy doing it and they want to do it. And I was just trying to figure out a way of how do I express or how do I ask a question to sort of change people's perceptions on that and give them a hypothetical like, yeah, all right, so if I could give you a pill, for people that don't know 100% what you're talking about, it's if you take the red pill and you've never touched drugs or alcohol, so none of the pain or the addiction have come along with it, but you've never experienced it in regards to none of the fun times have happened. You don't know what it's like to take drugs and alcohol. So you've lived a completely sober lifestyle. All your friends see you as a sober person that you've never touched it. Would you take that pill? Or if you take the other pill, it's basically all your memories, everything in the past stays the same, all the fun times you've had, but also if you've fallen into addiction, depression, all the hard times that came along with it. And then, yeah, if you took the red pill, you don't get to touch it in the future either. But if you took the blue pill, like, you've got the choice going forward. Yeah. And the point of that question is for people to think on a deeper level, right, do I want to live a life? Because I think the confusing point is, have you seen the video where the grandmas are smoking weed?
No.
So there's a video online, right? And there's these three grandmas and they've never touched any drugs. And they give them a joint and to see how they react to it. And they're like, oh, you only live once. So I think that's another question that we struggle with, that YOLO, like, yeah, you might be of the belief that, oh, I don't want to touch drugs and alcohol. go your whole life and then regret it because you're like, oh, did I like how many people get to the end of their life and regret the things that they didn't do and the experiences that they didn't have? So that was the point of the question. It's like make you think on a deeper level, would you do it? And if you get to that conclusion that no, you would not want to have touched them and not want to have experienced them, well, that's good for you because the answer for you is very clear.
Yeah.
It's like, good, do everything you can to live a completely sober lifestyle. Like it doesn't cause an issue for you. For most people though, they get stuck with it. And I don't think they would take the one that is completely sober. And it's funny you ask, where do people land with it? Because I've had people that have been addicts in the past that would still take the pill and would still go down that road because they say it made me who I am today.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing with like, you know, no regrets. Every experience shapes us today. And my answer straight away is I wouldn't change those experiences for the world. Like, and again, some of my best moments and also some of my lowest moments combined, but like, I guess life's duality, right?
Yeah.
You face the ups with the downs.
I'm interested to ask you in regards to like not necessarily the role that it played in your life, but your thoughts on it coming from the fitness industry and the movement that you're moving into in regards to the psychotherapy and stuff. Like, how do you see it in regards to people taking it recreationally? And stuff?
Mate, it's funny because you asked about people in the fitness industry, but like people in the fitness industry party harder than anyone else, basically. Not than anyone else, but like they're notorious party animals. So, mate, it's always been a huge part of my life. I was a massive party guy in high school. And it's funny because I started a business in 2015. I opened a gym. We were pretty busy and, you know, all these members, and my dad laughed. He's like, these are all people who just come drink with you. And it was true. Yeah. And, like, you know, it's literally helped my business, the networking and then the good times. And I'm like you, mate, this is why you resonated so much with me. For me, it's moderation. It's when and where and who you're doing it with and what occasions you're doing it on and being very clear about that. Because something I struggled with personally was, you know, just overdoing it all the time.
Yeah.
Drinking too much, saying I was only going to have a few, ending up having a belter, seeing the sunrise, all that sort of stuff. It's not until I've gotten older, it's taken me a long time to get there, probably to my sort of mid to late 20s when, I was able to use alcohol as a tool as opposed to abuse it. And I see a lot of my mates doing the same thing, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the pod, you know, because I think so many people struggle with that as well. Because I'm in my mid to late 30s now, so I'm definitely getting older, wiser. I've got kids. I can't do the same things I used to do. But if I could have gotten to this stage earlier, I think I would have deleted a lot of the silly mistakes and silly things I've done at a younger age.
Absolutely. And I think one thing with that is that it's frowned upon to talk publicly. And, you know, this is why I put myself out there, but they can bring good experiences as well. And a lot of people attribute good, fun experiences and connection. Like it opens people up to connection that they might not have had if they didn't do it because they're introverted, they're shy, there's blocks. And especially as guys growing up, you know, we struggle to have a conversation and say, I love you, mate. Like, but
that's what I think one of the biggest reasons why people do, because it's sort of it's a sense of connection as well, and people can't reach that organically. And I think the goal is to be able to reach that more organically, but I don't see why using it as a tool occasionally is such a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And and we talk about finding balance, and there's no number. You can't tell anybody what balance is for them. They have to figure that out for themselves. And that will change for people over time, like it changed for me over time. But yeah, like you said about finding that balance and being comfortable. But another thing that I say to people is experiment and find out what you actually need to have a fun time, because we all get sucked into that. And I want to touch on this, the go hard or the go home culture too, but we get sucked into that. All right, I'm partying. I need more, I need more, I need more. But more doesn't actually mean better, or more doesn't actually mean more fun. So when I first, nothing to do with the platform, but when I first started implementing this into my own life, just because I was going too hard and I just wasn't enjoying it. I was waking up the next morning and I couldn't remember conversations and just, I hated that part of it. It was like, all right, how many drinks do I actually need when I go out? And I just drink slower than everybody. Or how many lines if I'm getting on the bag, or how many pills or whatever. I was always known for smashing way too many pingers or whatever. But it came to a point now, like if I go out, my friends will do whatever they want to do. A lot of them won't take psychedelics if we go out to a festival because they don't like being on psychedelics in that environment, which I totally understand. Yeah. For some reason, I love it. So we'll go to a one-day festival at my music bowl or whatever. They'll be doing whatever they're doing. And for me, it's just a few drinks and a few mushrooms. And if I get that mix right, I have the best night ever.
Yeah.
But then if I overdo it and I start adding MD caps and stuff like that, suddenly I don't wake up because I've done an all-nighter. And yeah, I'm working, have that come down and that space where I didn't enjoy it. So it's not only having weeks off, it's also how do you find balance when you're going out and work and you'll actually enjoy it more.
Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error, mate. Like I for a million different events and parties, went out with the best intentions and just completely fucked up, you know. But like as you go on, a lot of the, like I said, we're in our mid to late 30s now. Like even just switching, like most of the boys drink light beers now.
Yeah,
because you can sit on them if you're having a few during the day. And mate, back in the day, I'd be smashing double shots, and you know, that's obviously it took me years to realize that's not the right way to drink. Yeah, for me personally, and yeah.
Well, it's when I go into footy clubs, the old boys come up and they're so proud if they've drunk a light beer, because back in the day, like my old man and like that era, if you drank a light beer, you're a pussy. And, it's starting to filter out now. It's funny, I've got like a quick analogy that I say when I do my talks. It's called just the tradie anecdote, right? And it's picture a bunch of tradies that go down to a pub and somebody says, no, I don't want a beer. Like, what happens? Come on, you pussy, have a few beers. And then a few hours later, everyone gets pissed and it's like, we'll get a cheeky bag. And someone's like, no, I don't want to get it, right? And I tell the people when I'm doing my talks, like, all right, let's zoom out on that situation. Let's look at it on what's just happening in a physical level and a neural level. Is you've got a bunch of guys that are going down to a pub to drink a liquid or take a substance to change the chemical makeup in their brain to feel more love and connection with each other. Because that's all that's happening. Like when we take drugs and alcohol, that's all you're doing. Yeah, you're just changing the chemical makeup in the brain so you feel more love and connection with people. Because all you do is sit around and talk, or you go to a nightclub and dance like a weirdo with each other. It's even weirder. So I tell them that it sounds like it's more supposed to be hippies taking plant medicine on the beach rather than old Davo on the job sites that wants to feel love and connection with his workmates. So I'm like, are you a pussy for having a light beer or a Coke, or are you a pussy for actually having a beer? Like, and when you change your perception like that, suddenly it changes the way you think about like, all right, well, just do what's conducive to your goals in the moment.
Yeah, I love that. What's one belief about mental health or substance use you wish more people would challenge?
Yeah, righto. One thing at the moment I'm on a mission is to change the go hard or go home culture. So it's ironic because I used to lead it. I used to run footy trips and I used to be bloody good at it, to be honest. I could talk people into going out on a bender.
So you were the king of twisting people's arms.
Yeah, definitely using the psychology to make people fold and come out. But I'm on a massive mission now to change that. And I don't care what you do. If you want to go out and have a bender, I'd be a hypocrite to tell anyone not to go out and have a massive night. But if one of your mates says they're not feeling it, and they're not interested, or they don't feel like another beer, or they don't want to get on the bags, leave it there. Don't pressure them into it, because at the end of the day, you don't know what anyone's going through. And imagine you pressured one of your mates into having a big weekend and they went on a depressive spiral and they ended up killing themselves. Like, it wouldn't be your fault. Yeah. But how fucking bad would you feel if that? So that is my main mission at the moment is like all around everything I do is obviously changing your perception, like the story that I told before, is that it's all about changing your perception so you can make it more conducive to your own goals. But yeah, just be really mindful of changing that go hard or go home culture.
Mate, I love that one. And it's something as like a young man, like how many times have you been out and you're like, I'm just going to call it a night, and everyone's like, just one more, and it turns into 20 more.
Oh, we're all guilty of doing it. We've all been on the receiving end. We're all guilty
because
of doing it.
You generally love the person. You want that person you want to be connecting with the person who you're trying to convince to stay and have one more, right? But it's more from a selfish standpoint as opposed to what's best for them standpoint. So I love the fact that you're trying to really hammer that message home to people. And do you deal with mainly, is it like, do you have an age demographic that you usually hit? Is it younger people in the sort of late teens, early 20s?
Yeah,
or
it's
is it
funny.
Sort of the shop?
You never know, do you? Because I thought it was going to be mainly guys in their 30s and 40s that were going to resonate and come to me. And I've got a lot of younger guys that have come through, like 21-year-olds. I had this legend. He was like, I could already identifying that we're getting on the bags too often, and worked with him, and he was like, yeah, all the boys are on board, and he would send me through his accountability and nights when they didn't do it. So I've had the first person that ever signed up was an 18-year-old girl from the UK.
Yeah, okay.
I've also got a network of professionals around me that that if somebody needs one-on-one talk therapy, that I sort of delegate or recommend. Yesterday, I recommended somebody from Saudi Arabia to one of my professionals, like a young guy from Saudi Arabia. So it's, in between that sort of 20 and 40 mark.
So you've gone global, mate. That's awesome to hear that you're having such a big impact.
It's amazing the people that reach out to you and
Mate, I love it. We'll keep doing what you're doing, mate. One final question. What is the best piece of advice you've been given and who is it from, if you can remember?
Yeah, definitely. So it was nothing to do with this. It was actually when I started coaching footy. And it was one of my mates, and he just said, look, best bit of advice I can give you is make your own decisions. And he was obviously talking about footy at the time, but it spills over to so many different areas of life. And it's something that I always say to people now as well, is that he was basically saying at the end of the day, people will give you advice and you have to live and die by your decisions when you start coaching. So at least if you make a mistake and you've made your decision, you can live with that. Whereas if you made somebody else's decision and then it didn't work out, you'll be like, oh, why didn't I go with my gut? And that holds true in life as well. You have to live with your decisions every single day. So listen to all the advice that you're given. Like, listen to everybody, because you don't know who has valuable advice, but implement the things that you believe in, because you've got to live with your decisions every single day.
Okay, I love that. So stay strong to your decisions, listen to your gut, and go for it.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. For those listeners who want to check out a little bit more about you and find out what do you do, how can they follow you and see some of these viral videos that I've been having a laugh about?
Mind Health Bender. And I would encourage you to go and give me a follow, because I've been in Instagram jail, as I was saying, for the last 3 months. Mind Health Bender. It's just at Mind Health Bender on Instagram, TikTok. And you can get to my website through that. So, yeah.
Okay, how good, mate. And now I'm happy I've got someone to have a beer with when I come down to Melbourne as well, mate.
Definitely.
So whenever I make it down to Victoria, I'll be giving you a call.
Absolutely. We might throw some mushrooms in there as well.
We'll see about that.
We'll do episode 2 of the podcast on mushrooms and
I'm
see how that goes.
I'm not huge in the psychedelics. I've done it a little bit, mate. But, mate, yeah. We'll see how we go. Maybe after a few beers you can convince me otherwise.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, mate. So, guys, if you like this show, please like, share and subscribe. Someone might be able to help themselves out with the content that we've gone through today. So thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.